everybody, if you are looking for a game call that is elk, turkey, deer, predator calls, waterfowl calls, we highly recommend PhillipsGameCalls.com. Professional grade game calls made for every hunter.
Welcome back to the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, with your hosts, David Crane and David Sandana. We're back again. We still have Ross Sharp with us.
Still here.
And today we're going to talk about some things going on in our state with our Fish and Wildlife Commission. Also, what does that mean to us and what's happening now? So last week, I know our last episode, Ross was talking about writing a letter and how he's been busy with commission meetings and stuff like that. So we're going to kind of get the inside scoop as to what took place there. I've tried to watch as many of the videos on the meetings as I can, just so I have some sort of contribution to this conversation, which may be limited. So we'll see. But welcome back, Ross.
Oh, thanks. Just trying to sift through all the stuff that these people have been saying. It's just nuts. What the things that are going on, and last week's meeting particularly was they were originally supposed to vote for their new preservation, what they call conservation, but it's a preservation policy. Mm-hmm. And their reasonings that they say because of climate change and all this stuff that things need to change, but they're trying to make this policy for so everybody in the state is a stakeholder, mm-hmm. rather than it being a resource. So like
they use those terms a lot, Oh, stakeholder, because
they are so good at wordplay.
We got to make it good for the stakeholders, and nobody knows who they are or what their motives are. But what started this whole thing? Just so people that maybe don't know anything about this, how did this all start or come about?
So how it all started was in 2021. Yeah, 2021, November 2021. They were just talking about bear hunting. And all of a sudden, one of the commissioners turned the table and was asking about, what's the average age of a bear being killed in Washington, and how many sows are being killed, and so then they kind of turned this direction where they were asking the department questions, knowing that they would not have those answers right now.
So Washington State, you have to turn your bear tooth in to age them, right? So they would have all the information that's handed to them.
Right.
They would know all the questions that were being asked. Did they ever answer those questions?
Well, not the way the commissioners were asking, because they were just asking
they wanted it on the spot.
So the state is actually in a middle of a study, like a 5-year study, right? And the commission knows that they're not finished with it, but they want the answers now when we still are a year away from the final study, so they can put all the data together. And the commission's just like, well, if we can't have those numbers now,
hold everything.
Yeah. And
no,
so
it wasn't that. It was, we are in the middle of the study.
Right.
Or we're at the tail end of this study.
Right.
But what their whole argument is that the model that we are presenting right now is not good enough. So basically they're saying that the biologists that we have through the state that are doing their job, doing their due diligence to get us this information that we need, they're not doing it good enough. It's not a good enough model.
So I guess my stance in this conversation is going to be from a question, like an outsider looking in.
Right.
Because, I have questions too, but it's not about bears.
Right.
And so from an outsider's perspective, do we have a declining bear population?
No.
We don't.
And actually, if you go to my Instagram, I made a little video of it to where the top bear biologist, I think her name was Stephanie, she told them repeatedly, we have an ample amount of bears in the state. We are nowhere near
endangered.
It is very sustainable. She even gave out the percentage of females that are shot, and that's not even anything to worry about. And because the Lorna Smiths and the I can never remember her other name, Commissioner Rowland, because they are from the anti-hunting side of things.
Mm-hmm.
They just, none of them listened. And at the time, we were off a chair member. They only had 8, right?
Okay.
So when they did the vote, it came out to a 4-4 tie. And in my mind, if it comes out to a 4-4 tie, it should be the same rule until
The
you have
tie
enough.
goes to the runner.
Right, until you can change it. But apparently that's not the way it works.
No.
And so they canceled the season. And they had multiple meetings
And
after
this is
that.
everybody. This is for spring bear.
Right, for spring bear.
But so before even they got to spring bear, they were looking at bears just in general, and then it came to like this. Oh well, what can we cut out?
Does anybody
They
know?
didn't even know what the hunting seasons were.
Does anybody know why they decided to pick the bears, or what that was?
Well, you will never get a straight answer from them of why they picked the bears.
if you had to guess why they started with bears,
Because if you eliminate a lot of the predator hunting, which if you already know what's going on in the blues right now with the elk herd being decimated, and they've already determined most of the kills are from bears and cougars. But yet, hunters, we're not meeting our quotas as it is. The bears there's more and more and more of them.
bears don't punch tags, right?
Right. And if they can stop even just a little sliver of hunting right now with the eventual plan to eliminate it altogether or curb it so small to where there's hardly any bear permits at all, those predators are going to decimate the ungulates. And then
that was
once the ungulates aren't huntable, then they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, people, we don't have a population to hunt."
Yeah.
That was what I was figuring too. What their end goal would have been.
Right.
So like, okay, yes, we get rid of all predator hunting altogether. Okay, fine. You can still hunt, elk and deer, whatever. But even at that point, they're trying to get an elk hunt to a draw only statewide. And then deer, I don't think they even touched anything on deer, I don't believe. I know there was elk, which is still ongoing. That's coming up.
The elk thing, actually, we're kind of jumping forward a bit from our
Sorry.
conversation, but they had a season-setting meeting a few weeks ago, and nothing has changed for elk as far as next year goes, which is what they...
Don't they do like a 3-year setting though?
Well, that's what this is for. Which I guess we can go back and forth. So it's going to get kind of confusing. But in the season setting meeting, and this is just going to chap your ass of everything that's been going on.
I don't need any more of that.
They were asking questions, roundabout questions that they know they're not going to get answers to because they're in the middle of all these studies and stuff, right? It was thrown out there that if they can't get the information that they want by the time the date comes to set the seasons, if we don't have the information we want, we might not have a season.
Well, which
is illegal.
Yeah, they do emergency closures for fish and stuff, and they've been so wrong so often that it's almost ridiculous to rely on any information you get out of there. But then when you have people that are deciding preemptively, like, here's our end goal.
Right.
I'm wondering if these people are really this super smart and ahead of everybody else, or if they're just so dumb you can't ever begin to think about what are they thinking about.
Well, they're not dumb.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
They are smart, but they are not from a hunting mentality. They are from the animal loving mentality, and therefore they are slowly, like I said, they are really good at wordplay. They don't actually specifically ever answer a direct question. Like, you can't get them to admit that what their plan is, but you can read it on the wall, right? Because they use this certain lingo to take away spring bear, and now they're using the same lingo to start targeting all these other things. But then they go, when we raise questions, they're like, we're not taking hunting away. We've never said we're taking hunting away. You're right. You have never said you're taking hunting away.
Yeah.
But all these things you're doing is a slow process to take it away.
Mm-hmm. And it starts back now.
Right.
That starts with our predator hunting.
Right.
Because if you eliminate predator hunting, what's going to happen to the ungulates? They're just going to get decimated. So now you have back to where we have too low numbers for hunting seasons at this point because, you know, the decimation of elk and deer and every other critter out there.
You know, one of, I think it was Barbara Baker's defense, we used to not have a spring bear season. I want to say it was like late 70s or something. And then the tree companies were, you know, having problems with bears destroying their trees. So they started this program. Well, it went from being only in the tree farms to all these wilderness areas. And she's like, in their mind, well, we've exceeded, you know, we're outside of the tree farms now. Why are we doing that? Because in their mind, you know, we are hurting the bear population, which we're not. Mm-hmm. And in their mind, we're also hurting the cougar population, which is an absolute joke, because they're obviously not listening to their scientists again, because cougars are growing like crazy and they're going everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know,
so thinking about spring bear season and regular season combined, if you had said those two, the way I look at it is if I have money in the bank, right? If I have a checking account and I have a savings account, and in my checking account I need money, and I could just pull it from my savings and say, this is the money I set aside. If you had, it's all the same pot, even though they're in separate little pots, right? It's everything is mine. So when I have a bear season in the fall and a bear season in the spring, say you go out, and the spring tags aren't just over the counter for everybody. It's a draw. Mm-hmm. So you're never going to have this unleashed wrath upon the bears to where you're like, oh my God, we can't recover.
Right.
But say you had a good season where 50% of the spring bear hunters went out and got a bear. That's only a couple hundred tags that are even issued in the year.
Right.
So then in the fall, that's going to mean there's probably going to be less bears that people are going to get in the fall if we had an issue with sustainability and population, which we don't. So I think in the same sense that they're talking about, well, what do these numbers look like? It looks the same to us on the other side, because we know there's no issue with the population. On this show, we've talked about, you know, when I spread out that bag of brown sugar, there was like 10 to 13 different bears. I can't remember the exact number, but in one day, all these different bears came into this brown sugar. And that spot it's by one of those tree farms. And on the opposite side, there's an absolute massive amount of bears that people really don't even have any idea. And my buddy and I were talking, I was like, they thought they had like 30,000 bears in the state. I was like, it's got to be way more. It's got to be. Because there's just, you can set up a bait site and check it out, put a trail camera on it, you're going to see a shit ton of bears.
Right.
It's not even a question if there's going to be a bear. It's and that was our question. Are we going to even get one on this trail camera? I think it was.
You're not baiting bears. You're baiting deer.
No, this is not for hunting purpose. This is before they made that law.
Okay.
Because the first trail camera we had was a Tasco.
All right.
Big old Tasco or Bushnell or something.
Right.
But we were wondering if we were going to catch something on camera, and setting it up just on a tree is probably not a very good way to get something. So we figured we'd try some attractant, and sure shit, man. And then we were addicted. Then we're like, we got to see what else we can catch on here, you know?
Right.
But yeah. So what happened this last week at the meeting, or what was the goal for this one?
Well, the goal was we had a pit, 3 weeks ago. Mainly through the Conservation Coalition of Washington State. They they put together this petition, and we got it out there, and I think we had like 5,500 signatures in 3 weeks, which is pretty good.
Yeah, my name was on there.
And we presented it to them at the meeting on Friday that, this, you guys need, hunters don't want this new conservation policy. Well, I didn't know it at the time. I found out later. On the Thursday meeting, I guess, they have postponed voting for that policy because they obviously are aware that some things need to be changed because of the pressure that we put on there. On Friday, when I was there, it's not a very big room, but hunters showed up. We jam-packed the room. It was standing room only, and they actually had to move people into an overflow room, which I think when there's like 50 people back in there. So overall, we had like 150 to 200 people there, and I want to say only 10 of them were from people who weren't there to support hunting. Mm-hmm. They were there, like a couple of them were, wolf lovers, and they were talking about that. And then another person was there to talk about, because there was a bunch of agendas that day, a fish hatchery, discussion, because all the open forum is in the morning, and then they break it down into individual meetings later on in the day. But it's funny in that on Friday's meeting, Commissioner Rowland, and if you go to my Instagram, you can see this. I spliced it all together. So back in June, she's like, hunters need to be worried. I don't know if you remember that, mm-hmm. And she went on to, because we have been in control for a long time, and people feel that the commission is not doing their job. Well, the people is anti-hunters, even though they don't come out and say that. They make it sound like it's the general public, which it's not. It's a certain group of people mm-hmm. who influences them and what their background is from. Well, after all our awesome testimonies, because even at the break, the director came to me and Jason Phelps directly, and he was like, "This is just what we needed." He goes, "This is awesome. You guys spoke, your testimonies were spot on and really good." And then even one of the directors or commissioners came up to me and when I was with another group, and he said basically the same thing. And then he asked me where I lived, and I said I live in Sumner, and he lives in Buckley, and he's like, we should get together and talk, and which was really cool. But then Rowland, after we all said our part and all the Zoom calls came in, they let the commissioners say what they wanted to say. Rowland came back. She was basically backpedaling. She tried to say, I didn't mean that hunters should be nervous because we're taking hunting away. Hunters should be nervous because of climate change and what it's doing to our deer and what it's doing to the land. And all hunters we should all be worried because of what the climate and weather is doing to our animals, which is nothing.
Shouldn't that be more effective if she's concerned with that as being a key issue? Wouldn't that have a greater impact on our salmon fisheries instead of our bear hunting? I was saying she was just backpedaling, and she was just trying.
I think she was just trying to make something up and
I understand what she's doing.
Beat around the bush of like what was.
She's trying to spin her statement to make it seem like I didn't really mean that, but
because I was watching. I was on Zoom watching that that meeting when that went down. Mm-hmm. There was no other thing except that. So if you go and watch any of these videos, if you find them on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, YouTube, the Crazy Elk company's Instagram, Ross does a great job of putting some videos together on that. I would recommend actually going. I believe it's on your Reels. I think there's some posts about it as well. There was nothing actually said after that.
Yeah, I think
it was hunters should be nervous right now.
Right. The important part to me about what someone says is the pretext of that statement too. So going back to what was taking place before she said that, not just sitting there quietly and all of a sudden come up with a statement, oh yeah, hunters should be concerned because if there was a climate change conversation taking place, if there was a conversation about bear hunting taking place, and then it was making a statement based on that against hunters, then it's 100% undeniable. Like, here's what was taking place when you made the statements. You know?
It was talking about.
I mean, I can play it on my phone. She said, "We have been in control."
Pull it up. I want people to hear it.
She's like, "We have been in control of the commission, and now it's basically time for us to take a seat back."
As in, the hunters have been in control of the commission.
Yeah. So she's talking about physical control. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
But before that, before the conversation, which you're not going to hear on what Ross has, it was basically saying that, we are taking away spring bear because that's what was going on at the time. And that was her statement after.
It's like some sort of retribution type thing.
It was.
Yeah.
It totally was. And that was what was stated right after that. So it was, number one, I was kind of in awe and I was in shock. And I actually called my wife over. I was like, you got to listen to this.
Honey, hold me.
No, well, my wife is a hunter too.
I know.
She hasn't hunted in a while, but she's a hunter as well. So when this statement was done, there was no other context around it. We were losing our spring bear, and then this is what was said.
Yeah.
And that the hunters and fishers could be getting nervous, and I think they should be getting nervous because they have been pretty much in complete control for a very long time. And there are many of us who believe that the commission and the department have not been fulfilling those statutory responsibilities when the basic focus and the basic constituency is hunters and fishers. That is not to say there is no room for hunting and fishing. Clearly, hunting and fishing is part of our statute too. That is legal, and we are to manage it, and we are directed.
Yeah, so their requirements for giving us all excess opportunities possible. It's not just like, here you have some
maximize opportunities, and they took an opportunity away,
even though it was available.
Ross, can you actually bring up the? Maybe we'll get to that later on, but there is another commissioner that stated.
Was it? It was the same. Was
on
it the
Saturday?
Same commissioner?
I believe it was on Saturday.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like what? Why we shouldn't have what's going on right now?
Right.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So this weekend, I think on an average, hunters in numbers don't go to these commissions meetings because we would think that these commissioners would have our best interest in life, considering their mandate. So we're out, and plus they're having meetings like when we're hunting. Like, we don't want to go to those things, but because of the starting of taking our spring bear away, it's drawn a lot of attention, and especially since June when she said those words, it woke a lot of people up. So.
Sorry, before you jump into that. So this meeting was actually done towards the tail end of a rifle deer season.
In the beginning of elk season.
Yes, in the beginning of elk season. So the people that showed up, I was at work. I wish I could have been there because I would have come. I was working. They're trying to get it to where they don't want people to show up. Like, they know what they're doing. They know what the seasons are. They know what's going on.
Right.
But yet they have this meeting during the tail end of deer season and the beginning of rifle elk season. So right. I mean, I have goosebumps right now because people showed up to this. Like, they took the time out of their season that is pretty much under jeopardy.
Kind of
to
reminds
go and
me
do
of
this.
The Dukes of Hazzard, when Boss Hogg is having a meeting during the Hazzard Rally, and he's trying to buy everybody's land, and everybody has to show up in order to not get their land purchased by Boss Hogg. They're like, there's a meeting over here, and they're watching the Dukes of Hazzard race, and it's like sleight of hand. They want you to, they'll do it right in the middle of the most important thing going on in your life, or things that they know people have planned all year for. They'll set these things up when it's very easy to have these same conversations after the season. We have probably 8 solid months from January till August, where most hunters aren't going to be out in doing what they normally would do.
Right.
You know, so they have plenty of time. They have 3/4 of the year where they can say, let's have meetings and let's talk and let's figure things out. But instead, they want to condense it into the times where we're occupied, or that if we show up, we're doing exactly what they want by not being in the woods. You know, so that's the other side of
That's
it.
the catch 20. I mean,
Yeah.
Right. So, because of the attention that this has drawn, you know, we had a big fundraiser. Bear Country Outdoors put it together for Sportsman's Alliance. We raised $60,000 to help sue the state. Conservation Coalition, locally, like when it comes, they only focus on Washington. So, like if you want to know what's going on with Washington and the game department, go follow the Conservation Coalition of Washington State. They're really keeping people informed really well. Like, you know, I text those guys and talk to them quite frequently to find out. That's how I get my information besides what I'm actually seeing. Because they have their hand, there's a few of them and they all have their hands kind of in different spots, and then they get together and they talk, you know, make a plan. But anyway, I think due to the pressure that hunters, just by their presence, you know, because normally they start their meetings at 8 and open forum time is done by 9:45, 10 o'clock. We had so many people signed up to talk. They actually were accommodating, and we talked to almost 12. That's how many hunters were there to talk. Mm-hmm. And some guys showed up, you know, unprepared, and they just kind of went off the cuff. But, you know, their feelings were real, and you could tell they were genuine. Some of them kind of, you know, if they would have had something written, it would have sounded better. But, you know, you could tell it was genuine. And I don't know, there was just a lot of great speeches. There was actually a speech, a guy who's a hunter now who used to be a vegan as of like 2 or 3 years ago. His speech was great. And I don't know if you want to listen to mine. It's like 3 minutes long, but...
No, yeah, let's listen to it. I mean, that way people can get a context of why we're even talking about this, and that yours is great.
Was especially an impressive ending. Please no.
I talked right after Gary Strasberg after he showed them the petition that we, you know, drew up over 3 weeks.
Yeah, when you're like, oh, at the end, you got to get it on the time, right?
Yeah, because the beeper went off.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hello, my name is Ross Sharp, and I'm a lifelong resident. I live in Pierce County. I appreciate you letting me speak today. Why am I here, you ask? Because I was told I should be nervous. I asked myself, why should I be nervous when I have science on my side? I have gone back and listened to almost every meeting in the past 2 years, and I could not in my wildest dreams make up the things that I have heard. I'm supposed to be dreaming about future hunting plans with my daughters and friends. I can't wait for the time when we wake up on a cold morning and my kids don't want to get out of the sleeping bag until I start the fires to warm them up. I can't wait for the moment my kids see something while we are hiking that they have never seen and listen to the rude squirrel or chipmunk that just alerted the whole world that we are there. There are a lot more moments I can't wait to share with them, just as my uncle has shared with me. But with this current commission, I worry some of these things may never happen. Everything I'm hearing lately is almost verbatim from what I'm reading on local anti-hunting websites. So it makes me wonder what's at play here. Why is there so much activism on this wildlife commission? I understand that there's a lot to manage from where you sit. But when it comes to the hunting aspect of things, I cannot fathom why we're putting feelings over science. In today's world, everyone is preaching that we need to be more inclusive. So why are people trying to tread on my lifestyle? Yes, I said lifestyle. Hunting and fishing is not a pastime for most of us. And I also hate the term recreational hunter. I'm not a recreational hunter. I'm a lifetime, passionate hunter. It is a lifestyle that has been handed down from generation to generation since the beginning of time. Everyone in this room is here because of someone in their past hunted. You have never seen cave drawings of a salad, ever. We hunt because we love the sustenance it gives us for both our body and our soul. I have heard commissioners say that we never hear from the hunters. Well, I believe I know the answer to this. Hunters, for the most part, are pretty laid-back people. We also like to be alone with nature and commune with our friends and family while sharing these wild places. We really tend to mind our own business. You will never see a hunter go to an anti-hunting rally and disrupt their lifestyle. Because frankly, we don't care. We just want to be left alone. If anyone in this room eats meat and is opposed to hunting, shame on you. We have chosen to know where our food comes from, and in this day and age, it is way more healthier than the options you can find at a grocery store. And by the way, most hunters have gardens as well. There is so much more I can say, and I could go on for hours, but in closing, I want to address something I heard recently. A commissioner stated that every day I open my emails or come to a meeting, it feels like it's Groundhog Day. Do you remember the premise of the movie? The same thing kept happening over and over and over until he got it right. So get it right, and we will be here until you do.
Yeah. Yes.
So the guy at the end who said every time he opens his email he feels like it's Groundhog Day is Commissioner Lemkuhl, who also was it in June or August? I don't remember. He said, if you don't like what's going on here, hire our own biologists.
Do we have our biologists?
No, they said hunters.
Oh, I know.
Need to hire their own.
And everybody was like,
yeah, what does that mean?
You don't even listen to your biologists. Like, your biologists aren't telling you, oh man, we need to shut down the season. Your biologists are telling you, we have plenty of bears. But yet you didn't listen to them because they're not listening to what's being said to them. They want you to answer what they want, but it's unanswerable.
Well, they want a yes man.
So what happened?
Yes
with that
man is
whole
not telling
conversation
them
about this last week about the bear population with the biologists and the hunting and stuff? If you have that clip, I'd like to play that.
This weekend?
This last weekend.
There wasn't anything about the biologist except for
What the biologist had told them, though. She reveals what she was told from the biologist. Yeah.
Yeah, that. Shoot, where is it?
Now convinced.
Nope.
So this is at the meeting they were talking about the spring bear hunt and what they knew and the time they knew it when they made their decision. And it was, in my view, a big admission of what I feel is a guilty act and a seditious type act, because they decided to do something against the information they had because they felt like they wanted to.
I'm going to have to go back just to the thing I put together yesterday because I can't find the whole.
What you're about to witness is an admission of guilt brought on by 2 days of hunters showing up in numbers with great testimony. And even though it's Halloween, you have entered the Twilight Zone.
Growth on this commission is to try to be real clear on what question I'm being asked to answer or have an opinion on. To bring it home to the orange hats in the audience, we were told that we had enough bears to have a bear hunt in the spring. That was not my question, but it was the question of.
That's all I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We were told that there are enough bears for us to hunt. Okay. Biological science says let there be a hunt. If you went the other way for some other reason, she's like, well, that was not my question. Yeah, we know what your question is, but your question has nothing to do with science. They keep wanting to throw social science, like we need to care what other people. You know what? There's always going to be people who hate hunting. Why cower to them when science is on your side? Mm-hmm. A long time ago, when this whole thing started, in a conversation, she's like, if we don't take care of this, we're opening ourselves up to lawsuits. Worried about the anti-hunters suing them. But they're not worried about the hunters suing them, which we did, and we're going to continue to do.
Yeah, the terrible thing about the court system is that you can take anybody there at any time on a claim. It doesn't even have to be true. But I think in the case for the anti-hunters, the people that don't want hunting, maybe they're not anti-people or whatever, that maybe they love animals. I think we all love animals, and I don't think anybody loves animals more than the hunters love animals. Because most often, if you look at the statistics, we are not successful in our harvest.
Right.
It's 90+% of the time that you're not going to kill an animal of that season.
Right.
Right. It could be once every 5 years or once every year. Some people get lucky and do it every single season, but that's still in the grand scheme. 8 to 10% on average is going to be your success rates
overall.
Overall, yeah.
Actually, I can tell you for a fact, spike hunting in Washington is less than 3% success rate.
Dang, for elk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, because they went. Yeah. So
It's pretty much spike only.
yeah.
Yep.
True spike.
That's not. Yeah, just for spike for the general.
And that is archery as well.
Yeah.
There's only a few units. I won't even get into that.
It's like a jackpot. You hit the jackpot.
It's 3%, which is
so
that's hard.
It goes over 10% when you have your quality draws and your bull tags. Those are more successful. Mm-hmm. But just your general season,
which most people hunt general seasons, and it's hard to say I'm going to go do something every single year and take all this time and spend all this money and put in all the practice and effort and all the things you do getting prepared for the seasons to be that unsuccessful. And it has to do with more than the actual harvesting and just the joy of, like you described in your statement, being there with your friends and your family, your children, and the experiences and showing them new things and experiencing, the warm fires and the good stories and the camaraderie you build over the year. It's almost, I get sad every time we break camp down, so it's like something heavy is here. It's the end of this celebration. And, I think that we have more investment in connection to the nature than most people, average people, realize. And it's not just the Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, going out there shooting at everything, whatever.
And that's that vegan now turned hunter. He talked about that. He's like, I have hiked my whole life, and I have gone to many great places. He's like, but I have never felt more connected and seen more wildlife now that my vision has turned to hunting. And I'm actually going to go back to find his speech and record it because I want to share that because I thought it was, just a really good message for people to hear. There's nothing wrong with people who hike. They're good people. They get out and enjoy nature the way they want to enjoy it. But a lot of those people don't understand why we do what we do.
And I don't understand why people hike either.
When they should just leave it alone and just say, well, that's what they do. They never see it. They're not out there when we're hunting for the most part. Like I've never run into any hiker hardly at all.
Yeah.
So just let them, you do you, stay on your side, let us do us, and we'll be fine. But
it's kind of ironic.
Everybody has to push their lifestyle on somebody else.
Yeah, and it's ironic to be, say you're not for hunting and you like to go hiking or whatever, and you're like, I just don't understand how people can hunt and kill an animal, and then that later that evening you're like Ruth Chris Steakhouse or Daniel's Broiler, and you're just like, oh, this isn't rare enough for me, and but then you can't look that act in its eyes and say, this is me killing this animal with my wallet, which is somebody else famous said that. And that's what they do is they feel better if they buy it than if they do it, and I believe, and it's obviously true, but not every single person in this goes back in eons was a hunter.
Right.
If you look at native tribes, not every single tribe member was a hunter, but the people that could provide the food were allowed to hunt.
Right.
So it's an important part of our life. It's not just the act of getting a deer. It's primitive. It's in us.
Yeah.
It's not something we can deny. We can't just say sorry, man, hunting is so unethical that we're not going to do it because it's part of how we even survive. Just because we've corralled the animals and put them in pens and they don't fight back or try to evade us doesn't make us not killers, you know. So, yeah, that's, I guess, my ending statement.
Yeah, I mean, that last weekend was a really, because of the hunters that showed up, I think that was an admission of guilt. She cracked after 2 days. That was the chair, Barbara Baker. The day before, Rowland, backpedaled on what her statement was earlier. And because of the pressure, they had the wolf proposal that was, presented to them. They voted it down, so, which is good because they basically, the proposal was, we need to keep doing what we're doing, and they wanted to restrict, ranchers and cattlemen on how they deal with wolves. And the state said, no, we're going to move forward,
The commission.
The commission, yeah. So, and I think that was all brought on by, in my belief, pressure.
I don't think if they could stand on that one, then they can't stand on any other thing. Because wolves are something that's been such a hot topic in the West for years. If they can't if they couldn't vote in to restrict people on how they're going to protect their livestock from wolves, then I don't think they have much legs left.
Well,
that's a wobble.
Well, yeah, in our eyes it is, but unfortunately we live in this state where especially in this region, is Democratic controlled, and they have a lot, they have the AG on their side. I do know 2 days before these meetings happened last week that they called an emergency meeting. No cameras, no public allowed. It was behind closed doors. Rumor has it that they're being sued by something, and they were advised legal. Well, that was the other thing I was going to talk on. On Thursday, they had their big tent committee when they were talking about their preservation/conservation plan, and their legal counsel in the room told them that they cannot talk about this, that their plan is basically illegal, and they know it, but yet they're still going to try to, which is why they probably pushed it off to spin things, to make it more appealing for everybody, which is, I don't know, it's all a mess. They should just stick with what we have and forget about whatever they're trying to do. But Lorna Smith, I don't know if you heard this one either, she has turned down every invitation handed to her by hunting podcast people or hunting media. Doesn't even respond to the invitations at all. But yet she went and did a Zoom presentation.
Well, I heard about this
with the Sierra Club, which didn't have very many people in it. I think my friends that were in the call, they said there was like 20 people on the call, and 5 of them were hunters. She talked about we are the opposition. This is coming from a commissioner who's supposed to be maximizing hunting opportunity. Hunters are in opposition. Her plan to fire the director, Kelly Seswine, of his role because he's a hunter. She said that we don't pay into, hunters don't really contribute that much to conservation, was her words. And she basically was trying to rally the troops, and she even said, please come to the commission meetings and support the commission in what we're trying to do.
They didn't show up.
Well, I don't know if they did or not, but she's actively recruiting anti-hunters and talking to anti-hunting groups about how much she doesn't like us, but yet she's supposed to be on the board for hunting. That's a conflict of interest. I mean, she's already been sued because her role is illegal. I don't know how her actions are not illegal.
Yeah, well, she was on, I read something online about her position with a group of predator wildlife conservationists or preservationists, and it pretty much seems to me like she doesn't even like the aspect or idea of an animal dying that's a predator. I mean, she's, even if she has kids, I don't know if she has kids, but I don't even know if she'd save them from their jaws if she could. If she had to her to do it, I don't think she'd be able to do it. I don't know how strong her. I guess I don't know. I feel like she's so involved with that she can't serve both sides effectively. You know, like she's so invested in this.
Right.
Stepping into this role is a moral conflict of hers, and now she's on a crusade.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And yeah, she definitely should not be on there. And hopefully, so they have appealed, you know, even though she lost in the court, they have appealed the ruling, which who knows how long that takes. But she has the support of the AG, which we all know he's a crooked, you know, as they come. So hopefully things don't get overturned. But yeah, she needs to go. Rowland needs to go. Baker, I think she's only taking as strong of a stance as she does because she has the other two who are the voices of the anti-hunting side. Some people say she's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think she's just kind of she can be washed one way or another, and I think she's just under the blanket of these people at the moment. I don't know what to think about it.
So she can make an unbiased decision.
I think so. I mean, I've heard her say some things in the past, and maybe those were just all lies. You know what I mean? And now her true self is showing up. I have no idea.
You know, they say
so maybe she was a wolf in sheep's clothing.
We're from the government and we're here to help.
Right.
You know, this is one of those situations where we really don't need your help. We don't want you to help us.
Right.
We just want you to not deny our rights.
Right.
You know, we don't. You never had to. Pioneers never had to ask permission to eat. You know, and we're in this world now where we feel like we're having to beg them to let us live, and that's not a way to live.
Yep.
And so it's sketchy and scary, and they should be concerned, you know, because they've awakened a force that's just going to continue to grow and gain steam, and the more people talk about it, they're like, hey, now this is a thing, and guess what? Next Friday you're going to be at the commission meeting. We'll be there in our high five, you know, orange hats, and we're ready to roll.
Yeah, orange hats in the crowd. That one kind of.
Yeah, that seemed kind of. I didn't like
that.
It seemed almost like it had like
condescending,
prejudicial tones.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm like, what if it was like something else? Just substitute orange hats with any other phrase.
They did say at that meeting on Friday that in end of November there's going to be like they're meeting with a bunch of experts in the predator field, you know, and that we should come to that meeting. They actually said you should all come to this meeting, and so you should hear what, you know, who these people are that are the professionals. I don't know, because there's like the Washington Cougar Association, which is an anti-hunt, and you know they love cougars.
I love cougars.
Yeah, well.
There's a place for them.
There's a place for them right next to my potatoes.
You know, I feel like that orange hat piece was. Can we officially label that as a microaggression or no?
Nowadays, probably. I mean, shoot.
I'm just trying to get up with the terminology. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. It was eye-opening, man. Like I've never been to one of those meetings. I've talked to them via Zoom. You know, sitting at a house on my computer, but actually being there and hearing what they say. I didn't stay for the whole day because I didn't have that kind of time because of my daughter's meeting, but they got the point that we're here, we're going to fight, we're not going to put up for this crap, and change is coming. And if it's not, we're going to make it happen, you know. So hopefully it was a wake-up call for them. I think it was, with the things that they said slip out. I think, like, Lorna Smith overall was really quiet, and I think that has to do with the lawsuit that's pending her and probably their lawyers saying, hey, you guys need to shut up. You know, you can't be saying this stuff. So we'll see. The petition, which I thought we were actually going to be like presenting it to them, like, here you go, but it's not an actual legal a legal petition. It was just hey, this is how many signatures we have. This is how many people who do not like this plan that you're trying to do. So I've been told if anybody wants this PDF, to contact Gary Strasberg. Actually, I have one too if you want. We're still collecting signatures. If your name is not on there, if you want to, just the more names we can get on it, the more numbers so when we go back again, when they try to talk about this conservation/preservation plan, we're going to be like, hey, now we have 30,000 people who do not want this preservation plan. You need to listen to what we're saying.
Have they not looked at any models? Preservation doesn't work. It's like in one of their documents.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I got that book from you, and I was reading it. And going into the meeting, I just wanted... My speech was I was just going to lambaste them with all kinds of crap. But I talked to a guy who actually works for the state, for the game department, and he's like, they don't listen. When you're that confrontational, they turn you off and they don't listen. He's like, tell them a story, tell them, And so I rewrote my speech probably like 5 times before I
should have Abby write a speech.
Who?
My 9-year-old daughter who went hunting for the first time last weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Have her come up and read it to him.
There was a kid there. It was a dad, and I want to say one of them was his actual kid, and the other one was like his adopted kid or stepson or something. They spoke, and the 11-year-old, he was really cute, to listen to, and he just talked about like what it means when he's out with his dad in the field and stuff. It was good to see, and they obviously paid attention to that because the kid deserved it. But yeah, I mean, who knows what the future holds? I'm positive. I have positive feelings, and it felt really good to be there too. Like you were. Like you can't bitch about something if you're going to sit at home and not do anything about it. You know what I mean? And I feel that my kids, your kids, our future needs us to step up and fight so they can enjoy what we've enjoyed. And it just felt really good to be there with all those people and fighting, for what we believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our Normandy here.
Yeah, for sure.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome to see all the hunters and huntresses out there on the front lines, for all of us that couldn't be there.
Right.
Hopefully there is no more meetings. Hopefully they get their acts together and get everything squared away. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We're going to have more meetings.
Right.
I plan on being there. I want to be a part of this fight, and I think the more people that we can get out there, it doesn't even matter if you're speaking or not.
Right.
Get out there, show your face, shake hands, get to meet other hunters.
Yep. Most people, I would say 75% of the people there didn't talk. They just came to show numbers.
Yeah, you got to have the support, right?
Yep.
Hopefully they were able to see how many people were on Zoom. I was on Zoom. I was commenting on almost everybody's speech, trying to do my part, but from home. I was working, sucked.
He's like the meme master in the background.
Yeah. Showing all the gifts. They didn't have that feature.
That's funny.
I definitely plan on showing up and joining the fight and doing what I can. I didn't grow up hunting. I was not a hunter, early in my youth. I didn't have anybody that hunted. I grew up in a house. We fished, we camped, we did all these other things. But even if you were someone that started hunting late or later on in your years, show up. This is for you too. So if you hunt, if you fish too, I mean they're trying to do things with fishing as well. Get there and show up because this is for us. This is
right.
What we need to do. We need to fight. So,
I don't want to eat Bill Gates' lab-grown meat.
No, no. That's not, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Get involved, stay involved, keep the pressure up, and we'll see this thing to the end.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. All right, everybody. That's going to be the end of our episode. Dave, any last
final thoughts?
Yeah.
Crazy Elk Company. Go to crazyanelkcompany.com. Use promotion code Ridgeline20 to get your discount. Dave.
Join the fight. We need to, we need to be Mike Tyson. Fearless and knocking things out. So we need to fight. That is my last thought.
Ross.
I just, I appreciate you guys having me here again. Love talking with you guys. Like to, reiterate what they said. And right now, and all the times, hunters are almost our worst enemy. We infight a lot between archers and rifles and what kind of rifles we shoot, and all that stuff. And there's a lot of going back and forth. We need to stop that right now because we're just dividing ourselves, and we need to be united in this fight because it's coming. They got a cougar thing coming up in Colorado, to ban cougar hunting there, which obviously they didn't look at California because California spends millions of dollars paying professional hunters to kill cats, and they just throw them in a dump. And here in Washington, 30% of all the cougars that get killed are killed by state hunters, and those cats just get thrown in a dump. The thing about, and this is how the anti-hunters work, in Colorado, on their cougar bill, they put in there no lynx hunting. Well, guess what? You can't hunt lynx anyway. It's an endangered
species.
Yeah.
So why is that even in your bill? It's just to tug at the heartstrings of people who don't know anything. You know what I mean? And that's what they do. So we just need to be more united. Talk to your friends about hunting if they don't know anything about hunting. Invite them over for a elk steak dinner. Show how good it is, and get them into it. And if they don't want to get into it, at least support our lifestyle and know where we're coming from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's good to have the education out there. I work corporate job, so different dynamic for sure. It's very hard to fit in. I have a construction background, so getting into this corporate thing, I've been in it now for a while, and it's just you almost don't want to bring up that you're a hunter. I do actually. I do. I'm not afraid. But
he's bold.
There's a lot of people that are like, oh, why do you do that? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Blah blah blah. And basically, I tell them, and they're all of a sudden just like, holy smokes, I had no idea. And they're emailing me or contacting me, hey, when's your next hunt? I want to see some photos and blah blah blah. So just get out there and talk about your passion. There are people that are generally interested, and they just don't know.
Yeah, I found most people are pretty receptive. To hunters and then we talk about everything else too, fishing. We talk about whatever. And it's not just a one-dimensional being of I'm a hunter and that's everything I ever do. Like there's all these other layers to the onion. That's a common phrase, but they don't understand. They're like, oh, I didn't like. People look at me. They usually don't think I'm a hunter and fisher, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, man. I can tell them all sorts of stuff, and they're like, wow, shocked. And it's not very typical that they get that type of information. And
there's this like stigma. Oh, I think that was my
favorite thing is when I say we have a podcast. They're like, what?
Well, there's a stigma behind it too, man. Like they a lot of people just think that hunting is for the white man, and like I'm brown year round, so like I hunt. Dave hunts. There's more dynamics than just like it's this great white hope hunting type deal. Like everybody hunts, okay? Yeah. The whole nation of Africa, they're hunters.
And their idea of hunting is what Disney and Hollywood has shown them.
Exactly, exactly. So, the more information that you get, the more educated that, people are going to be, and they're going to be more open to like what we do as hunters and fishermen.
Yeah, now that you said that Disney thing, I really don't appreciate that Gaston asshole. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's my homie.
Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, let's go get some beasts.
Kill the beast. All right, let's sign off.
Yep, that is going to be it. So yes, go to elkcompany.com.
Crazy Elk Company.
Crazyoutcompany.com, sorry. Use Ridgeline 20 as your code. Also, if you need any game calls, check out Phelps Game Calls. You can go ahead and pick up their brand new V2. This thing is awesome. Yeah, and that's it.
Should I toot it? No, I'm not.
No, don't do that.
I was blowing that thing on last night, man. It was sounding so good. The guy was like, do it again. Do it in the mic. All right, good night.
Good night.
I was going to say, like,